This is the guidance film then for the World War I extended homework project on the British sector of the Western Front. You can see down here at the bottom that the task has been broken down into 6 separate tasks that could be spread out or could be undertaken in one go. Homework 1 is to complete the timeline. The second task is to look at the individual battles. Homework 3 to complete the life in the trenches picture analysis. 4 is to make notes on the diagram to show your understanding of the new injuries and disease. 5 is to make notes on your understanding of treatments that resulted from these injuries. And then homework 6 is to apply this new learning to a sequence of GCSE style questions. The purpose of this task is to prepare students for elements of the GCSE course that will be taught in years 10 and 11. So the first task is a timeline of the key events, and you can work through that by undertaking some particular research. You can go online and doing this. Some sites that we would recommend are www.historynetwork.co.uk, our own website, and you can look at the GCSE section there, or the History Learning website, which also has a comprehensive information on World War I. Homework 2 then, World War I battle case study. We have a suggestion of several battles. Ypres, Passchendaele, the Somme, Arras, or any other famous battle, and what we want you to do is research that battle and work your way through the key questions. This can obviously be expanded as well, and you can go on to extra paper, or we will try and include a Word document which enables you to expand this information and add more detail. Homework 3 is life in the trenches. On this particular task, what we want you to do is look at the various pictures, and then what you're going to do is make inferences about the conditions in the trenches. So for example, here on the left we have, what does it tell us about what life was like? What injuries does it suggest that soldiers had? An inference I can make is. And then you work your way down through those particular tasks. Homework 4, World War I injuries. Read through the information sheet that is provided here. And it goes through a series of problems that soldiers encountered in the trenches. What we'd like you to do is then make notes on those various different afflictions that the soldiers had on trench foot, trench fever, shell shock, gunshot wounds, infection, and then the consequences of poison gas. Homework 5, treatments. We've already studied that new weapons incurred new injuries, and therefore new treatments were also required. Again, an information sheet is provided for you. Information on the Thomas splint, mobile X-ray machines, blood transfusions and blood storage, brain surgery, treating wounds and infection, plastic surgery. You'll note there that an awful lot of treatments that we regard as really rather modern and even today as advanced surgery are all a consequence of the injuries and experiences of soldiers in World War I. And down here we have some examples of the treatments being used as part of the recovery that soldiers went through. For each of these treatments, what I want you to do is summarize those notes into brief statements on the grid that is provided. Finally, applying this new knowledge to exam-style questions. Question 1 requires students to tell me about 2 features of trench fever. So a feature is tell me one example or one piece of evidence, one feature of trench fever. I need 2 examples, please. Then we have the usefulness question. We have the sources provided here, sources A and then sources B. And what students have to do is apply their understanding of nature, origin and purpose, and then the language of describing sources like objective, subjective, tone, language, etc., and apply that to their answer here. Again, quite an extensive amount of space provided for that. 3 is the follow-up question, which might be a new one for them to undertake here. How could you follow up source A? How could a historian inquire further and carry out further research? Read the source, and I want to know, how could you follow up source A to find out more about how well injured soldiers were treated on the Western Front? So it has to be a follow-up question about how soldiers were treated. Details in the source I would follow up. It has to be a quote from the source. And then what question would you ask to find out more? So the question has to be linked to how well injured soldiers were treated on the Western Front. What type of source could I use to find out more in order to answer this question? Students will have to be clear in identifying a specific type of source. And then finally, how might that source help a student answer their question?